School Atlas 8th Standard. History.
Imperialism and its repercussions. The policy of extending the rule or authority of an empire or nation over another country, thereby causing domination of one people or state by another, is termed as imperialism. The Industrial Revolution caused European imperialism between 1815 and 1914. As a result, a series of political revolutions happened that finally transformed the states and countries being ruled by empires into countries having their own democratically elected government. Mercantilism. The present world has seen the emergence of a commercial society. The advocates of this policy wanted state intervention in the economic affairs of the country, thereby producing maximum possible surplus in the import-export trade balance of the nation. For this, they started advertising campaigns to create markets for new products. For example, the people of India developed a taste for tea because of advertisement. Voyages and explorations. During the Renaissance or rebirth, many great voyages, discoveries, and explorations were made. Navigators like Bartholomew Dias (1488), Columbus (1492), and Vasco da Gama (1498) led these discoveries and explorations. Industrial Revolution. Many mechanical inventions led to the production of goods in factories. Of the European nations, Britain was the pioneer to witness an industrial revolution, which slowly spread to other countries of Europe. The rich capitalists who dominated the society pooled their resources to form trading companies and thus establish monopolies. Colonization. Discovery of new lands like the Americas brought about the formation of colonies in many parts of the world by a few European nations, as is seen in the map. In the past, there were many types of colonies with the buffer zones, like Siam between Vietnam, French colony, and India, British colony, to stop rivalry between the colonies. The different types of colonies include settler colonies, North America and Australia, crown colonies, Sri Lanka, plantation colonies, Malaysia, and later in Africa, for supplying raw materials for industries and dependency colonies like India, where exploitation of both men and materials took place on a large scale. Because India was termed as dependency territory, many fundamental changes were brought about by the British. Pattern. The imperial powers did not stop the pattern of colonization with the establishment of colonies and exploitation of resources. They traded in commodities, people and territories to get better political and economic bargains. Map. Example, the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 was a transaction between the USA and France. This pattern can be seen well into the 20th century, during which time colonialism ended. American and French Revolutions. The American War of Independence that occurred between 1776 and 1783 is also known as the American Revolution. America was the first colony to throw off the burden of imperialism and colonialism. This inspired the French to begin the French Revolution, which in turn paved the way for many great upheavals of the world. These two famous revolutions together put forth the slogan of democracy as a government of the people, by the people, for the people. As a result, in many countries of Europe, demands for human rights were raised. One of the most important contributions of the American and French Revolution was that the fragility of the European imperialism was exposed to the world. Towards modernization. Powerful nationalist movements challenged colonial exploitation in most parts of the world. The ideology and concept of nationalism was given to the people by the national independence movement to fight against colonialism and imperialism. It advocated that supreme loyalty to one's motherland was based on democratic rights of the citizens. The nationalist movement brought about modernity in India. Surveys and records. Process of domination. Mercantilism led to colonial domination. It has been understood from the picture below that Indians were willing to give their ancient text to Britannia, the ancient Roman name of Britain. This is seen on the frontispiece to the first map produced by James Rennell in 1782. Periodization. In James Mill's 1817, A History of British India, Indian history is divided into three periods, namely Hindu, Muslim and British. Though India was not fully conquered, the British felt they had to civilize India. Surveys and records. Since the British preserved all important government and personal documents, multiple copies of these were made, distributed and preserved from the 19th century, when printing began in India. By the turn of 19th century, census operations were started, as well as other types of surveys like archaeological surveys and botanical surveys. A difficult task. The official records do not give a clear knowledge about the lives of common people. For this, we have to depend on texts of leaders, reformers, poetry and novels.
From trade to territory.
Mercantile system. Because they were interested in mercantile system, the East India Company started to invest in fine cotton and silk that was protected in India. The first fortified English factory was set up on the banks of river Hooghly in West Bengal in 1651. Growth of company power. After the death of Alwardi Khan, the Nawab Nizam of Bengal in 1757, the local amirs, nobles and the rulers hatched conspiracy plots against each other. As a result of this, the British were able to establish and consolidate their power. British paramountcy. The British framed certain policies like the doctrine of lapse, framed by Lord Hastings, and the subsidiary alliance, framed by Lord Wellesley. These, along with the military campaigns and diplomacy, made the British establish their supremacy and thereby making the Indian rulers their subjects and feudatories. The local princes who did not offer them any resistance were allowed to rule. In order to get the loyalty of these subdued local princes, the British kept India divided on political, religious and other grounds. See map. See the map below for the division of the princely states on the basis of religion. Civil administration. The Charter Acts regulated the affairs of the English East India Company. The head of the civil administration was the British Governor-General, who was assisted in his work by the police force, judiciary and the army. Only European officers headed each of these departments, while Indians had to be satisfied with the lower post. But the British promoted the interests of certain classes of the Indian society, like the zamindars, moneylenders and similar sections of society, so that they could get the loyalty of these sections. They were given additional privileges which were not enjoyed by the common Indian.